This is iCastNews.com, live and direct from the United Nations. I'm Linda FASOLO. And joining me today is Zimbabwe's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador BonIface CHIDYAUSIKU. Welcome back, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Well, the 3-month-long General Assembly is coming to a close this week. What were your country's priorities, and what's your sense of the major achievements as well as the disappointments?
Well, since the start of the General Assembly, we have gone through a number of resolutions, both in all the committees, and we've almost done with all the first, second, third, and fourth committee. We're still left out with the fifth committee where we're discussing the budget. But on the overall, I think the 3 months have gone well for Zimbabwe. We had a number of resolutions that we co-sponsored, and other resolutions that we didn't like, which we voted against, and also some resolutions that we know were passed that we did not agree with. But on the overall, it was no big issue that happened in the past 3 months. In terms of resolutions that comes to mind, I think in the third committee, we, as Zimbabwe, are opposed to country-specific resolutions. This is in regard to...
Like criticizing for human rights.
Yes. We believe in that the Human Rights Council is a more appropriate body to deal with issues of human rights than bring them to the third committee. So we voted against resolutions that were proposed by Canada on Iran. We also voted against a resolution on DPRK from the European Union, on the basis of principle that we don't believe that country-specific resolutions can solve problems that you find in those countries. And the other one, I think, it was also on Myanmar, where we were opposed. But on the overall, we believe that it is good that we dialogue. We find ways in which we can improve the quality of life of our people in all over the world. What we detest is the double standards.
In terms of what?
Of targeting particular countries to the detriment of the others. For example, we had the Goldstone report on what happened in Israel, in Gaza, where the report says there were crimes against humanity committed by soldiers when in the Israeli offensive in Gaza, and it said no, the two governments, the Palestinian and the Israeli, should look into the issues where the soldiers exceeded their authority, and women and children were killed in those areas. When the report came to the General Assembly, there are some countries that voted against that report because they felt it targeted Israel. And we felt that the Goldstone report was independent, commissioned by the Human Rights Council, and the facts spoke for themselves. Now, when we came to the third committee, it was ironic that you find countries like Canada bringing a resolution on Iran, complaining about the human rights situations in Iran. We are not saying it's perfect, but one of the co-sponsors of that resolution was Israel. Come on, with the Goldstone report in place, you come up with a resolution criticizing another country, whereas when the resolution came in the General Assembly, you voted against it, and you come up and you find people like Israel co-sponsoring a resolution on Iran.
So you're saying, so what is your country's position? Basically, that you're saying no country should be targeted, and so you would vote against the Goldstone report as well as against Iran being sanctioned?
No, we voted for the Goldstone report because it was sanctioned by the Human Rights Council. That they should, they went in, they did the investigation, right? And the resolution was passed in the General Assembly. But there were some countries that opposed that report being
discussed in the General Assembly.
Yes, the resolution. That's where we had a quarrel with them. But at least this was a fundamental issue that needed to be addressed by the General Assembly. And it came through the Human Rights Council in Geneva, which is the appropriate body to discuss the issues of human rights. That's one area. Then we, again, as Zimbabwe, every year there is a resolution where the General Assembly passes a resolution on the Kimberley process. That's where we should prevent diamonds, blood diamonds from being used for procuring arms for insurgency or conflicts in Africa or wherever. We have had challenges in Zimbabwe with regard to diamonds. There's an area where we've had problems. And the Kimberley process, which looks into this thing, which is a voluntary association.
It's a voluntary agreement.
Between and governments, traders in diamonds, and civil society. We met in Namibia, in Windhoek, in Swakopmund, and we came up with a communique that recognized the challenges that Zimbabwe is facing, and Zimbabwe undertook to address those issues so that there can be full compliance with the Kimberley process.
What were some of the issues?
Yeah, that the control mechanisms in one of the alluvial gold mining area called Marange, our controlling mechanisms were not to the standard required by the Kimberley process, and there was also allegation that the military had gone in to secure the diamond area, and this was seen as the military not supposed to be there, but it was a fluid situation where we needed to control the situation, and they accused the military of human rights violations. So we saw issues of human rights being dragged in to the issue of the Kimberley process, which are two separate things. There are different forums where we handle these matters. So we have resisted the moves by Canada and others to try and bring in the agenda of human rights from the Human Rights Council into the Kimberley process, because these are two different subjects altogether. So that we have resisted. And when the resolution came into the General Assembly, it was voted unanimously, with one exception where Syria objected Israel being the next chair of the Kimberley process, but in the end, people said it's a historical fact that Israel is the incoming chair of the Kimberley process. People may not like it, but that's the reality on the ground.
Interesting.